My selection for action is Baby Assassins from 2020, I think, which
Yeah.
is it's kind of in the realm of John Wick in some ways. It's two girls, one's very good at fighting, one's very good with weapons, and despite being complete psychopaths, they're actually really engaging. And some of the best bits in the film are the time they spend at home, just chilling out and cooking. It's got the kind of issues of doing paperwork after a hit. The girls try and get away quickly so they don't have to do the paperwork for the cleanup crew. Hilarious scenes where they both get jobs in a maid cafe, and the ending I think is fantastic. Really, really good action. It's clearly incredibly famous in Japan, but I think in this country, it's in the UK, it's not that well known. Just a lot of fun.
So my choice is a film that probably everybody's perhaps heard of and everybody's seen, but I think it is underappreciated. It's John McTiernan's 13th Warrior, with Antonio Banderas and bizarrely Omar Sharif, based on a Michael Crichton book, Eaters of the Dead. Basically, Seven Samurai with Vikings, and Antonio Banderas is an Arab scribe who somehow gets involved when they go on this quest to help this village. And he's the 13th warrior because he's an outsider. It was in production hell. You do feel that there is probably another 45 minutes or an hour missing. It lost the studio lots of money, but it still works and it's actually quite moving. And as you said about Baby Assassins, it is actually engaging and you actually care about the characters. Not quite to the extent of Seven Samurai when you're generally upset when people die, but it's certainly more involving than your standard Seven Samurai rip-off. So definitely one that's underappreciated. Yes, it's formulaic, but it has a nice twist with the culture clash. Of course, it's a road movie and it's a siege film, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, obviously, I was going to have to mention Death Crocodile at some point. So for adventure, I'm going to go with one of my favourite discoveries the last couple of years, the Russian Walt Disney, Alexander Puchko, and Ilya Muromets, which again is just another one of his fantastic adventure folk tales in glorious technicolor. And this is about this amazing warrior fighting off the invading hordes. Just so colourful and imaginative. And again, the imagery is just to die for. Deaf Crocodile is Region A, but I'm sure it might be on streaming services. And I think the success of these Puchko films, I'm sure at some point somebody in Europe might release a Blu-ray of their own of these films because they're kind of jaw-dropping. They're kind of fantasy adventure the way it's supposed to be done. Kind of in some way reminds me of the old Harryhausen films in the sense of, the only limitation is your imagination.
Yeah.
Which lots of filmmakers don't seem to realise.
I love the film, I really do. I think it's funny that even the dragon, you know that it's not real, but they're not going for absolute realism. They're going for just something that's great fun.
But it's fantastic because it's real in that world. It might not be real to our world, but it's real in that world.
Yeah.
The Puchko films are just an absolute joy, and I would highly recommend Ilya Muromets is a good place to start.
My choice for adventure is Journey to the Beginning of Time from Kara Zeman, fantastic Czech filmmaker. It's just the ultimate adventure. 4 kids get in a boat and they just decide to head off to the beginning of time. They essentially just head downstream and record everything they see. They draw things as they go of what they've seen. They have different little adventures all the way back to the Paleozoic era. That just kind of sums up what childhood is like, isn't it? You just get together with your friends and you just go off on an adventure. It just so happens these ones go off on a really fantastic adventure.
I was so close to picking a Zeman. Yeah, it's just so simple but so effective. And again, it is pretty much like playing with your friends back in the olden days. And there's just a sense of wonder to it. Again, back to the Harryhausen again.
Yeah.
Well, this is a film from 1990, and it's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. I've just loved this film since I first saw it. It focuses on the 2 small characters from Hamlet, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, who don't really know who they are. They don't even know which one's Rosencrantz and which one's Guildenstern, which is a running joke.
That's right, yeah. I forgot that.
I could be wrong.
They kind of cross in between the real Hamlet, so you do have passages and characters from the play, the Shakespeare play, strangely enough.
But in the beaten way of friendship, what make you at Elsinore?
To visit you, my lord. No other occasion.
But then when everybody goes away, they're left confused with what the hell's going on. They come across travelling players, led by Richard Dreyfuss. It was supposed to be Sean Connery. So they're just baffled the whole time. There's lots of just wonderful wordplay. There's a great kind of version of tennis, but with words.
Who served? Hesitation, love one.
Tim Roth and Gary Oldman are just brilliant in it. I mean, it's maybe not everybody's idea of comedy, but as we know, everybody's got a different idea of what comedy is. Well, Gary Oldman's more the kind of idiot savant. Tim Roth thinks he's a lot smarter than he actually is. Gary Oldman accidentally makes all these little inventions. Tim Roth kind of stands on them and stuff. His early attempts at a hamburger is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, the chemistry between Roth and Oldman is good. I mean, they'd worked together multiple times, so they were just really easy together, weren't they?
Watch closely. Interesting.
It does have a fantastic ending. You do actually care about them.
That's it then, is it?
Yeah, it's just an absolute joy.
My comedy choice is Dinner in America.
Another one I haven't seen yet.
So Dinner in America is about a angry punk guy who's in a band, and he meets a quirky, kind of nerdy young girl, and they kind of strike up an unlikely friendship, which is all pretty standard stuff, you know, pretty normal plot. But she's so quirky.
You're funny.
And he's so angry.
What did you just say?
You heard me the first time.
Essentially, there's a series of meals all the way through the film, and most of the meals are utter disasters. The first meal in the film, he's undergoing drug tests and is dribbling into his dinner. It's a film that came out right at the start of the pandemic when no one knew how to then publicise a film or how to get it out there. So it just kind of died a death. So, yeah, I think more and more people will discover it. I think it's going to become really well known in the future. I think it's going to be, you know, one of these kind of cult classics. Very offensive and rude. Really good indie comedy. It deserves a recommendation.
Yeah, I might have to pick that up.
Simon?
Yeah,
Are we going to jail?
probably.
For crime, I've chosen Down Terrace, the Ben Wheatley film. Lots of good British actors, Michael Smiley and people that you recognise from TV or small films.
Yeah, I've seen a few Ben Wheatley films. I think A Field in England is absolutely brilliant.
So these guys are kind of very low-level gangsters, just kind of hanging out in Brighton. They're pretty inept, but bumbling along.
Come on, you great lump. We never suspected you for a minute, mate. You're getting paranoid in your old age.
I kind of like that kind of level of criminal. You don't really see any crime that they're doing other than killing each other.
Tough decisions have to be made.
It's not the decisions that are tough, Bill, it's the actions.
There's a guy who comes down from London and says to them, "Look, sort yourselves out, you're messing things up."
General vibe of confusion and carnage coming from your end.
Again, it's an early Ben Wheatley film that most people haven't seen.
That's another one I need to check out. I'm going to pick a film I first saw in Moviedrome years ago and watched it again after decades probably. It might now be my favourite Peckinpah film, and that's Bringing the Head of Alfredo Garcia. You'll never be as cool as Warren Oates. And in this film he actually gets a lead, and he gets employed by the mob to find a friend.
A compadre named Alfredo Garcia.
And pretty much bring back his head. So the film kind of goes, or you think it'll go in one direction, but Peckinpah, as usual, misdirects you a little bit. It becomes a wonderful little character piece. Warren Oates has that thing of even when he's not likeable, you can't take your eyes off him.
Yeah.
Because he's an interesting actor.
Yeah, he's got such a charisma, hasn't he?
It does have some trademark Sam Peckinpah slow motion. He uses slow motion really well in this film, I think. It's very elegiac. Warren Oates is by no means a hero by any stretch of the imagination. But again, you identify with him. And again, he just gives one of his best performances. It's just a wonderful film that I think is a lot deeper. And I think it does get forgotten about with all of his other kind of more notable films. It's almost the closest to Peckinpah on screen, I think. He was drunk most of the time or angry most of the time. So it's amazing that he managed to finish any of them.
Yeah.
There's just an element of Alfredo Garcia that's quite beautiful. So I'd highly recommend it if you haven't seen it for years, as I had. I've went from Canadian International Pictures for Forbidden Love, the unashamed stories of lesbian lives. And it's about life as a lesbian in Canada in the 40s, 50s and 60s. So it's a really interesting time period. So it's just a kind of fascinating look at the times where we're even less tolerant back in the day than they are now. And it's done in a kind of, it's not a preachy or it's not a depressing film. It's kind of done with tongue-in-cheek, pardon the pun. It really talks to like 10 women, and that's about community and actually looking after each other in times where those groups were even less protected than they are now. Documentaries should show you something about worlds that you're not familiar with, so you can learn about it.
Yeah.
It's just a fascinating look into a world that a lot of us aren't familiar with.
My recommendation for documentary is Summer of Soul.
I haven't seen this one either.
So this is a recording of a series of concerts that took place in New York in 1968 in Harlem, and the footage kind of then just got squirreled away. The people on the bill are just incredible, and the performance is amazing. Stevie Wonder, Sly and the Family Stone, Nina Simone, they just give the most incredible performances. And one of the things I found really interesting was the mayor of New York comes on stage one day to give a speech, and he's a Republican mayor. He's a white mayor delivering to a black audience, and he's a nice guy, and he gives a good speech. And we just don't even expect that now, do we? We expect everything to be politicised and to be, extreme and to be kind of, trying to score points. Just a really lovely atmosphere to the whole thing. And it's just a magical concert movie. My choice for drama is These Final Hours, which is a film from about 10 years ago. It's an Australian film about the end of the world. I know you're looking for a film that depicts Australia in a good light. This isn't it.
The quest continues.
Keep searching. Yeah, so something's happened on the other side of the world, and it's essentially just incinerating the world slowly. So everyone knows this is coming, and they're kind of tracking the progress of this kind of wall of destruction or fire. So all bets are off, all rules are out the window. Just how you're going to spend your last few hours. And it's about a guy who's trying to get to a sort of gathering, and he finds a young girl who's in distress and then takes her with him. He wants to go and visit his mum. The girl wants to find her dad, and they're all up against this time limit.
I'm Rose.
James.
And as you can imagine, it's the end of the world, so some people are being horrendously awful and some people are being superbly nice. There are some people that have built a bunker, and then there's a discussion about, but this is, so what? How's that going to help? Really, really good film. Very affecting. Thoroughly recommend it. Again, it's not one that seems to be very well known.
Yeah, not familiar with it at all.
Really great little Australian film.
So my pick for drama, it's Atom Egoyan's The Adjuster. It's a film that I've loved ever since I've seen it, starring Elias Koteas as a loss adjuster who deals with people after their houses have burned down. And he has a wee side deal with a motel owner that he puts them up. You know, the people that he puts into the place almost like worship him and this. And he gives a very personal, invested service with people.
It's very strange, isn't it? It's his kind of relationship with people.
At the same time, you've got his wife, played by Arsene Kajajian, so I probably butchered her name, and she is a censor. Her mum wants to know what she does, so she records the nastiest bits and then shows her mum when she gets home. And then you've got, talk about underrated, Maury Shaken is one of the most underrated actors in the business. And he is part of a very rich couple, and his wife needs kind of sexual thrills, and he supplies her by arranging things. And these characters, their lives kind of intertwine, and there is a kind of, well, there's a brokenness about everybody in the film. I've always really liked Elias Koteas. I think he's been underused. And Maury Shaken, as I said, is just absolutely brilliant in this, and he always is, pretty much.
Yeah, he's almost heartbreaking in this film, isn't he?
And it's shot beautifully and just absolutely wonderful. If you're looking for kind of nice, easy resolution and nice, easy answers, Egoyan's not going to give you that in The Adjuster, but it's just wonderful and one of the best films of the 90s. Again, one of the other things I've gotten into in the past few years is Czechoslovakian pochodky, or their fairy tale stuff. So 3 Wishes for Cinderella, which has now got a lovely Blu-ray from Second Run.
I very nearly chose that one.
Don't worry, I had the Virgin and the Monster as a backup, which is the definitive Beauty and the Beast now for me. But yeah, 3 Wishes for Cinderella by Vaclav Vorlacek. It's just a wonderful twist on the Cinderella story, which we're all familiar with, the same way Uraj Hertz's Beauty and the Beast is a similar story we've all known. But they just have a wonderful spirit to them and energy to them, especially like Cinderella in this. She's strong and intelligent. People have argued it's a really feminist Cinderella character, but I don't know whether that just means she's strong. It's just lots of fun. The only limitation is your imagination, and it's just, it'll put a smile on your face. Obviously nowadays we could all do a smile on our face, so I would highly recommend 3 Wishes for Cinderella.
Yeah, really sweet. It's one I nearly chose. My recommendation for fantasy is Troll Hunter, which I nearly chose for documentary. A group of young students making a documentary, and they discover a guy who is out hunting trolls in Norway. But it's really enjoyable, and it's got some really lovely effects in it. It's really nice detail. The old troll hunter is a really interesting guy, and kind of all the things he's done to his mobile home to protect himself from trolls.
You know, the way the government explains it, it's actually almost plausible.
Yeah. I've worked with people like that, you know, who are representing government agencies and just want to get paid and get their pension.
Yeah.
And are not going to do anything that, or are going to stop anything that might threaten their job, basically. There's loads of little details in it, and it kind of builds quite nicely to kind of a big climax at the end. One of the characters gets scratched, and then the scratch starts to get infected, and there's a kind of question about what's going to happen to him. So yeah, really, really enjoyable. Yeah, I love the idea of, you know, them looking under bridges, because trolls live under bridges. It's a nice kind of monster movie that I thoroughly recommend to people.
Yeah, it's tremendous fun. Yeah, and for the budget, the effects are really good.
Yeah. They say at the start that this is found footage, which I think is a bit of a shame. They probably didn't need to say that, because then you kind of have an inkling of where the film might be going. Great little film. Everyone should watch it once. My choice for history is The Damned United, from way back in the 1970s. That's as far as history goes for me. A film about Brian Clough, England's greatest ever football manager, and just a really great character. Brian Clough in reality was fascinating to watch on TV because he just had such a great personality. He was very straight talking and he had great wit. So yeah, I thought Brian Clough was incredible.
Some fella in London, England, named some Brian Clough. I heard all the way in America that this fella talks too much. They say he's another Muhammad Ali. There's just one Muhammad Ali. Now, Clough, I've had enough. Stop it.
Are you going to stop it? No, I'm going to fight him.
And the success he had as a footballer and then as a manager, it's all just really nicely summed up in this film. And Michael Sheen is just really, really good at these kind of roles.
Ah, you are a disgrace! For missing the target from there, you want bloody shooting!
You really kind of forget that it's not Brian Clough.
Oh, you are a bloody disgrace! For missing the target from there, you want bloody shooting!
If you're into football, it's an absolute must-watch. But I think for anyone that's just interested in seeing a bit of kind of sporting history or just the kind of rise of a great man, I think it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think a film like that kind of works really well if you're not particularly a fan, and it still works.
Yeah.
Which it does. Yeah, it's a good film. Well, really good performance as well.
Hey, come on, let's do it!
My pick for history, it's just got a 4K. It's Master and Commander, Far Side of the World, Peter Weir. This was a film that should have had sequels, but unfortunately didn't. Based on a series of books, Russell Crowe's finest performance, forget Gladiator. But unfortunately, this didn't get to the cinemas in time, and Pirates of the Caribbean got to the cinemas first. And of course, nobody then wanted to see a serious film about EOD ships. But it's a shame because Master and Commander is absolutely fantastic. I mean, you could put it into adventure, obviously, as well. I'm probably cheating a little bit with putting it into history. It's just wonderful. It's probably the most accurate film about life on a boat in them days. There's basically 2 action scenes which are amazing, but the rest is actually about character and tactics and life on the boat and obviously superstition and all that. We also get the Doctor played by Paul Bettany, and of course he's desperate to go into the Galapagos and see all these animals. But it's just so good. It's actually a brilliant child performance, which you don't see too often. As one of the younger officers. It's just absolutely wonderful. The 4K I wouldn't say is a huge step up, but what it is during the action scenes and the dark scenes at night, it's much better than the Blu-ray, but overall I wouldn't say it's like a massive jump or anything. But it's just an example of how a really good film can be buried at sea because of timing. It's sunk without a trace, basically.
It's a pretty perfect film, isn't it? I'm surprised it doesn't appear in kind of more top 100s and IMDb top 10s and things.
It really should. It's intelligent, thought-provoking, it doesn't hold your hand. And again, it's characters you actually care about. It's like 130 odd minutes and it just flies by. Yeah, horror's a funny one, but I went for one that's definitely underseen, I would say, and it's actually from 2019, if you can believe that. It's Daniel Isn't Real, which is actually about an imaginary friend. So this young man goes through trauma, and it pretty much precipitates the bringing back of his imaginary friend, Daniel, strangely enough. But his imaginary friend isn't helpful, quite the opposite. I mean, it's obviously about mental illness as well. And I really thought it was pretty effective. I mean, I picked it up for cheap a few years ago. Wasn't really expecting that much out of it, but it's actually really good. And it does have some creepy moments. Obviously, it's about alter ego as well as, mental illness and things. But it's actually really effective, and I was actually surprised by how good it was.
My blade swings sharp, sire.
My blade is a broom.
Daniel.
Daniel's not like a monster or anything. He's just like a human being, but so it's not like fantastical or anything. Which again leans more into the, is it mental illness? Or is it, from the outsider's perspective? Yeah, a little gem that I was not expecting to be that good.
My recommendation for horror was a recommendation from your channel. It's Dracula's Daughter. It's in the horror genre, but it's certainly not horrific. It's one that is not something I probably would have dug out. The original Dracula film is, it's fine, and you kind of assume that all the sequels are just going to be kind of retreading old ground. But this one doesn't. It's not one I'd even heard of, but when I watched it, I thought it was really interesting. It takes off from the moment that the last film ended. The police show up and want to know why Van Helsing has murdered someone and driven a stake through their heart. Gloria Holden is just fantastic in it. She's got the good vampire eyes, she's perfect for that role. It goes in a different direction to Dracula. She is desperately trying to not be a vampire. It's kind of a lovely kind of traditional vampire tale, but not a copy of Dracula. Her henchman is really similar to Benicio del Toro. There's those kind of lesbian undertones to it as well, which is quite racy for the 30s.
Yeah, you could actually make the statement that it's better than Dracula.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, Dracula's Daughter just blew me away how good it was. Yeah, I mean, you could go crazy and say if there's one film that people should watch out of all of these, it's Dracula's Daughter, because it will surprise you.
So, yeah, thank you for recommending that one, and then that's now become my recommendation.
Sherry, Maria?
Thank you. I never drink wine.
So I've gone for Phantom of the Paradise. My second favourite first watch of last year. A film I'd never got round to seeing. Thought it'd be fine. I'm not a massive fan of Brian De Palma, so I wasn't rushing to see it. But it's really brilliant. The songs are great. The action is comic book fun. It's silly, but kind of dark as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things that if you write it down on a bit of paper, you just go, there's no way this is going to work. It's like picture Dorian Gray / Phantom of the Opera / Faust.
When he gets beaten up and thrown out of the mansion, and then the police just kind of just treat him awfully as well, and he's all covered in blood.
Yeah, the thing with the teeth.
Yeah, he doesn't have a good time, does he?
Yeah, as you say, the songs are great. If you didn't get the songs, it ain't going to work.
Yeah, and to have Paul Williams write the songs and be the songwriter in the film and be really good in it as well it's really surprising. Jessica Harper's fantastic in it. She really, really performs it well.
And it's also kind of a history of music as well.
Yeah, through the different genres of music. The first song, there's the kind of 50s kind of doo-wop kind of thing, isn't it? And you kind of think, I don't want to sit through 2 hours of this. But the next one is kind of a 60s kind of Beach Boys-esque kind of song, and it progresses, doesn't it, to prog rock and goths.
And it's a great satire in the music industry as well.
Yeah.
It took me years to watch it, but when I did, it is just brilliant.
Everyone should watch Phantom of the Paradise.
For my musical, it comes from the man who did Scum and Elephant and all these socially realistic films.
I know what you're going to say. I thought you might choose this.
It's Billy the Kid and the Green Bay Vampire, which again was a film that I saw decades ago and then didn't see for decades. And then when I watched it, it was like I watched it last week. Yeah, from Alan Clark, who might just be the second greatest British director of all time. A musical, obviously it's still about class. Green Bay's Vampire, for those not into snooker, is obviously Ray Reardon. You can Google him if you're under the age of 40. Again, another film that just shouldn't work. It's a musical about snooker and about class. Phil Daniels plays the rebellious snooker player, and Alan Armstrong plays the Green Bay's Vampire. Again, just shouldn't work, but does. Certainly one of the most random films. But yeah, there's not a lot to say about it apart from go watch it and hopefully you'll like it. You don't need to know the rules of snooker if you're worrying about that. You just need to know the rules of enjoyment. Bizarre film, but wonderful.
I remember you mentioning this on your channel, and it's gone into my to-see list, but I've never seen a copy of it.
I've got it in a network DVD. To me, it sounds like an indicator film, or even a BFI. It used to be on Channel 4 every now and again. Billy the Kid and the Green Bay's Vampire is the greatest snooker musical you've ever seen. Mystery, I've went to France for Henri Vernieu, who I really like. It's Eye for Icarus, which again I've done a random review of, starring Yves Montand, who I've really grown to appreciate in the last year or so. It's basically a Kennedy assassination film, but it's done in France. Obviously, there's political machinations going on, as you'd expect. Really smart, really intelligent. Obviously, there's witnesses to the assassination, and obviously, those witnesses have terrible accidents. And there's a nice little cameo by Bridget Lahaye, the ex-Naughty star who appeared in some genre-land films later on. But just a wonderful film, really tense. It's on Gaumont Blu-ray, but again, it feels like a Radiance film. It's only a matter of time before Radiance release it, I think. It's just wonderful.
My recommendation for mystery is the Korean film Burning, which I watched a few years back. It's one of those films that it's kind of difficult to get a grip on what's going on, hence the mystery genre, but you're always unseated by it as you're watching it. But it's a film that then kind of stuck with me after I'd seen it the first time, and I kept thinking about it again. You got this, this girlfriend who suddenly disappears, and there's this whole mystery that seems to be unresolved. The fires being set in the polytunnels. Is this guy setting these fires, or is he not? Even though he claims to be. I wouldn't say I loved it the first time I saw it, but it really stuck with me, and that's the kind of sign of a great film. Years later, I'm still thinking about it. It's kind of up there with Parasite as a real kind of modern Korean classic. I think it's very well known for people who are into Korean cinema.
Yeah, Lee Chang-dong hasn't made that many films, but his films are always kind of challenging, and he likes making his characters suffer, and it's certainly well worth checking out, and his films always demand your attention.
It's the only one of his films I've seen. I'd definitely like to see more of them.
Well, if you're familiar with the channel, romance isn't really my wheelhouse, so I went with the only romantic film I could really think of, which is Double Suicide, of course. Shinoda's wonderful Double Suicide, which is on Criterion DVD. I don't think there's a Blu-ray edition, sadly. This is a simple tale of a married man who falls for a geisha, tries to buy her from her owner. Things ensue. Really, what makes this film special is the production design, because the sets are basically like a no theatre set, so it's very stage bound, which gives it this artificiality, but somehow gives it a reality as well. It's hard to explain, but it's just a fascinating exercise in style, and obviously a bit like Titanic, you perhaps might guess what happens at the end.
Yeah, it's one I really want to see, but like you say, because it's not had a recent release, it's difficult to get hold of. It looks fascinating. And his films often have that kind of staginess to them, don't they?
Yeah, he takes it to the nth degree in this one.
So my recommendation is one I've been harping on about for a few years, and it's Comrades Almost a Love Story, the Chinese film with Maggie Cheung. So it's kind of like the perfect romantic film, but it doesn't seem to have had any releases on physical media. There's different relationships in it. The main guy in it is staying with his auntie, and she recounts this story of having a romance with William Holden. So you've got this kind of really old kind of relationship there. And then Christopher Doyle, the cinematographer, is in it. And he's in a relationship with a girl, and there's various complications there. So you've got lots of little kind of lovely stories in there about romance and love. I mean, obviously Maggie Cheung is lovely. It's as good as any American romance film. It's kind of got all those kind of cliches of the American romance films as well, lost love and trying to recapture it, and those kind of hesitant moments and everything. But it's just done perfectly well, with lots of really great characters in it.
Right for a remake, no doubt.
Yeah, but but don't.
Yeah.
My choice for science fiction is The Crazies, which probably isn't strictly science fiction, but there's lots of talk of biological warfare, there's lots of looking down microscopes and checking samples. Obviously it's been made twice. My recommendation is really the George Romero 1970s version, because that's the kind of definitive. But I actually think the remake is actually okay. It trundles along at a really nice pace, pretty much the same story, but just told from the side of the people in the town. But surprisingly good.
Yeah, and Timothy Olyphant is in.
Yeah, and you can see why he's so popular now. The original 70s version shows the government side and the military side in a lot more detail. It probably has a different tone now we've been through a pandemic as well. We can kind of appreciate how things can go horribly wrong.
Yeah, bizarrely, I think I saw the remake first. And I would agree the Romero one is better, but the remake is actually, I would put it amongst the better remakes you'll see.
Yeah, it's solid, and they're both good. The box set with both films is well worth getting, I think.
For my science fiction, a film that I'd never seen, never even heard of until it got a recent release. It's Hammer's Four-Sided Triangle, directed by Terence Fisher. This is basically two men who like one woman. So one of them decides to clone the woman so they can each have the woman a copy. But I was really surprised at how good it is. It's like a little kind of pot boiler. But again, it has the Frankenstein stuff. It actually prefigures The Fly. Watching it now, you can think about The Fly. It's just a really lovely little film. Again, because of budget reasons, it's paced brilliantly. There's not a lot of hanging about, and it's really well acted. Fisher doesn't mess about with too much exposition or flashy shots. It's just really effective, and really surprised at how good it is. I think it's only like 70 odd minutes, but there's a lot going on within that 75 minutes.
My recommendation for thriller is Blue Ruin by Jeremy Saulnier. I think it's his first wide release film, and he went on to make Green Room after this, which again is a really good film. It's a revenge drama. It's a guy who's kind of crumbled since someone was murdered, and now he's out for revenge, but he's got no skills, he's got no abilities, he's just obsessed by revenge now. You know, his whole psyche is just kind of crumbled a bit. It kind of reminds me a bit of One False Move, the 1990s film. It's got that kind of grittiness to it and messiness that, you know, that revenge would really have. I went to see this cold at the cinema, and it became one of my favourite films of the 2010s. Macon Blair is absolutely perfect for it. He's not well built, he's just a guy, and he then finds out that, you know, things were much more complicated than he realised or that anyone knew. Thoroughly recommend to everyone.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen it. I've seen Green Room, but I haven't actually seen Blue Ruin. That's a good prod. This is Black Coal Thin Ice. This is relatively new as well, from 2014. This is really about two detectives. They're in the doghouse for not being able to solve big crime in the past. And then the MO seems to turn up again when body parts are found in a big mining facility mixed in with the coal, hence the name. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's similar to Memories of Murder by Bong Joon-ho, but it's along those same kind of lines, but it doesn't play to audience expectations. As with most Korean films, it looks really nice. It's well acted, well directed. As far as a kind of underseen film, it's definitely that. Yeah, really well done. And you do get the kind of feeling of the world weariness of the two cops. They were kind of thrown to the side after not managing to get the right result the first time round. Yeah, it's a really excellent little film.
Yeah, it sounds along the lines of Memories of Murder, which is great as well, a great thriller.
We mentioned John Sayles' Enemigo, which is about the American-Filipino War. Again, very much like Mate One, a subject matter that not a lot of Americans know about. America in a foreign war, basically interfering under the guise of spreading democracy. And this is set in a kind of a small village, and the protagonist is trying to balance both sides, trying to appease the Americans and also trying to not upset the guerrillas at the same time. Just wonderfully acted. Chris Cooper's in it. It was actually premiered in the Philippines, and it got a rousing reaction. It's not easy to get. I pretty much got it through John Sayles' website, but it's really good.
For God's sake, we're supposed to be winning their hearts and minds.
So my recommendation for war film is A Canterbury Tale, which takes place during the war, but we never really see the war happening. But it kind of sums up that kind of experience, especially in southeast England, of what England was like during that period of the Second World War, with blackouts and local petty officials and big sections of Canterbury missing because they've been bombed out. The women doing all the farming, all the kids are out there playing, and they're playing war games and having battles.
Yeah, and it's also about the relationship between England and the US soldiers that were billeted in England, and how that relationship works with the local heroes as well.
These London teams have plenty on the ball.
Now look, forget sex for a little while, will you?
The whole initial inciting incident is the blackout causes a guy to get off the train at the wrong stop. I think it's a lovely film, and it's probably sums up a moment in English World War II history. I mean, obviously it's Powell and Pressburger, so it's going to be a good film anyway.
Yeah, it's one of their most underrated and underseen.
At the very start of the film, it's got the Spitfire, and that's about all you actually see of the machinery of war.
Yeah, which again mirrors the jump cut from the bone to the spaceship in 2001.
Yeah, and the match to the sun in Lawrence of Arabia. Of course, Powell and Pressburger did it first.
Of course, yeah, wonderful recommendation.
My recommendation for a Western is Sonny and Jed, the Sergio Corbucci film. Obviously lots of Sergio Corbucci films are really famous, this one less so, and this does seem to be quite difficult to get hold of, but it crops up on streaming sites and YouTube. So this is kind of a Bonnie and Clyde story with Sonny played by the lovely Susan George. They just shack up and head out. It has the scene where, a typical kind of Western scene where they get their photo taken so their images are preserved in history. And they're being tracked down by Telly Savalas, who I think is just an absolutely fantastic actor. I really think he's great in everything. But he's kind of seems to be a bit dismissed ever since his kind of TV days. I think he's got a great presence and he's a really good character in this. In the same way as Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, the Susan George character becomes the more extreme, the more violent or more aggressive character. Yeah, it's just good kind of Western fun that not that many people know about.
Yeah, unfortunately I still haven't seen it. There's quite a few Corbucci's that unfortunately are pretty hard to get a hold of. That's certainly on the list to track down. So my Western just recently got it because it's a new release from 88 Films and it kind of blew me away. It's A Man Called Noon, which I'd never heard of, from 1973. It stars Richard Crenna, Stephen Boyd, who I think's always kind of underrated, directed by Peter Collinson, who did The Italian Job.
Okay.
And bizarrely Farley Granger, and it's just fantastic. I don't know why. It's in a UK Italian co-production, and it's about Richard Crenna plays a gunfighter who has lost his memory.
Why are you helping me?
Got a helpful nature, I guess.
You know, obviously Richard Crenna is kind of blank anyway, so that kind of works for the role. Stephen Boyd, I think, is underrated, and he's really good as the gunfighter that Richard Crenna kind of teams up with. There's a bit of Johnny Guitar, but obviously everybody's got a past, and there's kind of people trying to double-cross each other, and then there's a quest for gold. He tags along with Stephen Boyd, and they're going to a ranch to protect this woman from Farley Granger's men. The film is absolutely beautiful. There's stunning shots in it. I'm not sure where they actually shot it, but the locations are stunning. But one of the great things about it is the score by Louis Bacalov, whose name might not be familiar, but he did Django. He's worked with Damiani, Francesco Rossi, Elio Petri. So again, another one of these Italian composers that is just absolutely stunning. The score, you could argue, is maybe even better than the film. That's the great thing about Italian genre cinema. Even if the film's kind of a 3 out of 5, usually the score is like a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, Sonny and Jed is a Morricone score. So again, just adds so much, doesn't it?
So the score is just exquisite. There's just a lot going on, but again, it just comes together beautifully. Again, a film I'd never heard of before, and it is now readily available on 88 Films Blu-ray, so you've got no excuse.